Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of June 21st, 2021. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda, and under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The council shall require any member of the public desiring to address the council to identify themselves, the name of an organization or group, including an address that you may be representing by such person or group unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and organization or group, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on an agenda for that date nor plan for a future agenda. Will the clerk please call the first item of business?
Our first item of business is a memo due to the 4th of July holiday. City Council will not meet on Monday, July 5th, 2021. Our first sections of our agenda is sections 1 and 2.
Is there anyone here to speak on items 1 or 2? Anyone here? Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
Item 1A is reappointing Sharon Rowan to the City Personnel Board for a term to expire June 22nd, 2026, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob? Yes. Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1B is approving the assessment resolution for College View Business Improvement District and assessing the cost against the benefited properties, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1C is approving the assessment resolution for Havelock Business Improvement District and assessing the cost against the benefited properties, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1D is approving the assessment resolution for North 27th Street Business Improvement District and assessing the cost against the benefited properties, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1E is approving the assessment resolution for South Street Business Improvement District and assessing the cost against the benefited properties, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1F is approving the assessment resolution for University Place Business Improvement District and assessing the cost against the benefited properties, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Items 2A through 2D was introduced by Schob.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call roll?
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay, we move on to our Section 4, Public Hearing Liquor Resolutions. I'll call items 4A and 4B together. Manager application of Luke Pash for Kent and Seth Hotel Corporation, doing business as Hampton Inn for a Class I liquor license located at 7343 Husker Circle, as well as for Residence Inn for a Class A liquor license located at 5865 Bobley Lane.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, oh, come on up. If you want to come on up and just say your name and address and tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Luke Pash, I'm at 7343 Husker Circle. And we're just getting a liquor license.
Sounds good. Are there any questions from the council? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much.
Hampton and Residence.
Item 4C is manager application of Cambry L. Brown for EHPV Operating Group LLC, doing business as Big Red Restaurant and Sports Bar for a Class C liquor license located at 955 West O Street.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this item?
Hello, Nick Thielen, 955 West O Street for Big Red Keno. Just here to answer any questions in case the council has any. Cambry's here as well.
Are there any questions from council at this time? Okay, seeing none. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Item 4E is Item 4D is application of Whitehead Oil Company, doing business as U-Stop 24 for an addition of an indoor area measuring approximately 15 feet by 56 feet, located at 110 West Fletcher Avenue, Suite 101.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's move on.
Item 4E is application of Hub Cafe LLC for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 200 feet by 170 feet at Jane Snyder Trails Center located at 250 North 21st Street on June 24, 2021 from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item? Come on up.
Yay.
Hi, this is Carla McCullough from Hub Cafe, 250 North 21st Street, Suite 3. Just here to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from council at this time? Councilman Washington?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming down today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your special event?
Yes, so it is a birthday fundraiser for Mayor Larian, private event.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome. Councilwoman Raybold? Oh, no, okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much for coming down. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's move on, please.
I'll be calling items 4F and 4G together. Application of Backswing Brewing Company for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area, measure approximately 180 feet by 70 feet at Rebid located at 455 West South Street on June 25th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. and June 26th from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m., as well as the application of Cerro Cider for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 180 feet by 70 feet at Rubidoux located at 455 West South Street on June 25th and 26th from 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. There's actually, there's a correction on this. The times on the agenda for Cerro Cider should reflect the same times as what Backswing Brewing has. So it'd be the 25th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. and the 26th from 2 to 11. I'll make the correction on the agenda.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item? Come on up.
I'm Jane Ploffman with Rubidoux Incorporated. We're at 455 West South Street.
I'm Jamie with Rubidoux Incorporated at 455 West South Street.
We're just sorry. You
I'm
go
James
ahead.
from Cerro Cider, 1746 N Street.
Tracy Sanford with Cerro Cider, same address.
I'm Corey Sinclair from Backswing Brewing Company, 500 West South Street.
Yeah, we're just here to answer any questions about our event.
Are there any questions from the council at this time? Councilwoman Raybold?
Could you tell us about your event?
Yeah, so we've been in business since 1979, and we recently moved, but with COVID and everything, couldn't do an open house. So this is basically our grand opening customer appreciation day, and we wanted to have some local businesses involved, and so that's when we got Cerro Cider and Backswing Brewery involved, which Backswing is right across the street from us. And so it's just basically an event. We're going to have some live music, and we have a plan, I believe, that you guys, did they get that?
Yep.
Yeah, so we kind of drew out, it's going to be a fenced-off area. There's a 7 or 6 foot fence all the way around the perimeter that's listed off here. And so all the alcohol will be served in that. And then there'll be wristbands at the entrance that we will get. We will have 2 people, checking IDs, and then they're also going to double check since it's a joint SDL.
Any further questions from the council?
I'm very pleased to see that you're doing a great open house. I did have a question, but with the correction in times, everything's cleared. I wanted to know if you guys were doing a party together or oddly at different times.
Any further questions from council? Okay, thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item?
Mr. Chair, seeing no one coming forward, I'd like to make a motion for approval of items 4A through 4G.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Shob, seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may you please call a roll?
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Can they all be nice to you? Are you sure they don't want to stay and listen?
Okay. Our next item section is Section 5, Public Hearing Resolutions. Item 5A is approving the fiscal year 2021-22 Annual Action Plan for HUD entitlement programs using community development block grants, home, and emergency solutions grants.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin, Urban Development Director, 555 South 10th Street. The document that you have before you is required by the U.S. Department of Housing, Urban Development. It includes how we intend to use and spend our federal CDBG, home, and emergency solution grant funds. A week ago, I think, when we were talking about the budget discussion, I did share with you some details on the general uses of those funds. The city of Lincoln is an entitlement city, so we have access to these funds. We don't have to apply for them. The document that you have before you is an executive summary. The longer 70-page document is confusing and full of contradictions, but the summary does show you where we are going to spend our funds. Urban Development prepares the plan, or we administer the plan, and we had a open meeting that we advertise in the newspaper and allow people to make comments on. So we had a comment period. The annual action plan is part of a 5-year strategic plan. We're in the 3rd year of that one. So we will be coming back to you in the future with a new strategic plan, but these subsequent interim years are not as involved. We're trying to spend the funds in 3 broad community areas: housing, community development, and homelessness. The majority of the funding goes to housing programs, including programs that include program income of $3.5 million, with $150,000 for livable neighborhood public improvements. Emergency solution grants are the funds that we use as a pass-through for homeless grants. Pages 5 and 6 are those summary of those different expenditures. The actual entitlements for 2019 are CDBG funds of $1,937,228, home funds of $1,133,680, and ESG funds of $166,126. I think I'll just stop there and see if there are any questions on this.
Are there any
Open it
questions?
to the public?
Councilwoman Washington?
Director Marvin, thank you for coming down and sharing this. This looks like really just good things. But I have one curiosity question. On page 5, it talks about all the funds that we're getting, but it also says 1.1 million in CDBG and home program income. And could you explain the word income in this
Sure.
situation?
So what happens is, as I tried to explain during the budget period, we make loans to individuals. And when we make a loan to that individual, the terms are 0%, generally no payment. And then the repayment back to the city is there's a lien on the property. So when the property were to sell, then we would be able to receive our funds back. Those funds that come back to us in that manner are called program income. Okay. And, you know, just, I'm glad you asked that question. I mean, one of the things that you'll see on here are emergency funds. And there's $548,000 of emergency funds. Last week, I think many of us know that it was pretty hot. We had an elderly person whose air conditioner gave out. And we use funds, emergency funds to help address her lack of air conditioning. So those are examples of the kinds of things that we do week in and week out.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would wish to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Item, excuse me, item 5B is approving a contract agreement between City of Lincoln and Capital Towing, Inc. for the annual requirements for City of Lincoln towing and storage services pursuant to bid number 21-042 for a 4-year term, with an option to renew for 1 additional 4-year term.
Chairman, members of the council, David Young, representing the IT department in this building, 555 South 10th. Today we're going to talk about the vehicle towing contract, bid item 21-042. A little bit of history about this. Way back in December, we had another bid for the same service, bid 20-266. In that bid, we had 2 companies, Capital Towing and Midwest Towing, respond. Those 2 companies have been competing for this bid for the last 20 years, a long time. There was a credit card fee issue. We did not give good guidance in the bid of how we would handle credit card fees or how they would be scored. One company included them, one company did not. And so working with the city law department, we said we would reject all bids and then reissue the bid. When that happened, the bid was protested and the argument was made that you could not reject all bids and they wanted to issue to the lowest bidder. The city law department, the mayor said, no, we have the right. In our contracts, it's listed in 3 different areas that we have the right to reject all bids. So bid 21-026 was the new bid for the same contract. And what it said was we will include credit card fees and they will be part of the fee calculation for who is lowest bid. The result, about $89,000 a year in lower cost under the new bid. Yeah, so prices went down. Everybody was on the same playing field. Very competitive bidding process. Some things specifically to call out: cost per tow was reduced from $54 to $52. Accident fee cleanups were $20, now are $15. Several things, but the bottom line is anybody who is towed in Lincoln will receive a lower cost. It's a very good process. As you can guess, this was also protested as well. The protesting company listed 3 reasons that went to the Protest Appeals Board. So the board members, specifically of that, are all private citizens. So none of them are government. The bid, again, was protested on the grounds that the city could not reject all bids. We've been over that ground before. Yes, we can reject all bids. They also protested the calculation of the daily rate for leasing the lot. It was $8 in 1996, and it's $8.50 in this new contract. And the argument was it was not a responsible bidder. The Protest Appeals Board disagreed. And then finally, the credit card fees, should they not be calculated? Again, the Protest Appeals Board unanimously supported the findings of Bob Walla and the purchasing department. But they did recommend a couple of things that I thought were very interesting. They recommended for us to improve our communications. Basically, if we are going to reject all bids, that after we reject them, that we host a bidders conference. It can be virtual or in person, and allow anybody to come in and have a conversation specifically about that contract. And they also would like us to focus on reducing the length of our documents, and making it a lower barrier for smaller companies to come in and do business with us. And finally, they recommended specifically on this contract that the storage cost should not be increased, and that the contract amount should stay the same for the duration of the contract. At the mid-year, at the 4-year mark, the companies can request an increase, and they recommend that it be kept at that lower cost. They also recommended that any future price adjustments in this contract specifically should be based on an economic index, such as the CPI, instead of an arbitrary number. You, like me, appreciate short presentations. This is our standard contract. The process was a little bit longer. These are very competitive contracts. So,
Are there any questions? Are there any questions?
I have
Councilwoman
one.
Washington?
Yeah. First, I'm going to tell you thank you very much. We heard a lot about this contract at council, and I had questions that I don't have to ask because of your very informative presentation. But just for my own information, how long has Capital Towing had a contract with the city?
25 years.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on.
Item 5C is approving an interlocal agreement between the city and Lincoln Public Schools related to the joint use of Cooper Park and Park Middle School properties and the associated easement.
Good afternoon. Lynn Johns with Lincoln Parks and Recreation, 3131 O Street, number 300. The action before the City Council this afternoon is a resolution approving an agreement between Lincoln Public Schools and the City of Lincoln regarding planned improvements at Cooper Park and the Park Middle School site. The agreement is included on the school board meeting agenda for tomorrow evening for action as well. I think as the City Council knows, Cooper Park and Park Middle School are located between South 6th and South 8th Street, between D and G Street, and they adjoin one another, and were part of the original plat of the City of Lincoln. They are located in the South Salt Creek neighborhood. I'd like to share a brief overview of the process that led to development of the agreement that is before you this afternoon. A master planning process for renovation of Cooper Park began in 2016 and involved an advisory group of neighborhood residents. There were several advisory group meetings and 2 public open houses. There were several the master plan for renovation of Cooper Park was approved by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board in 2018. And this is the most current version of that plan. And I'll talk about a couple of revisions that have been made to this plan since the original version of the master plan was adopted by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board back in 2018. The next thing that happened was that Lincoln Public Schools and Lincoln Transportation Utilities contracted for an independent study of student drop-off and pickup at Park Middle School in 2019. This study recommended that the parking access drive at 8th and F Street be closed, and that the access drive be moved to South 6th Street to increase safety due to the heavy volume of student pedestrian traffic and vehicular turning movements at the current drive at 8th and F Street. And so essentially what's happening is that today there is an access drive at this location that is opposite the intersection of 8th and F Street, and the suggestion was that the drive be moved over to 6th Street. A majority of, or what the study found, was that a majority of the pedestrian traffic of students walking to school use this walk, or use this access walk along the east side of Park Middle School. Following that, there was a meeting with the Master Plan Advisory Committee in 2020 to review the location for the new access drive accessing South 6th Street and the proposal for the expanded shared playfield. And that group supported both ideas. Later in 2020, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board reviewed and approved updates to the Cooper Park Master Plan for the new access drive and expanded shared playfield. Earlier this year, at the request really of the Neighborhood Association, and really because there were concerns being expressed by neighborhood residents, there were 2 meetings with the South Salt Creek Neighborhood Association and 2 community meetings to discuss the proposed master plan for Cooper Park and Park Middle School and rehabilitation of South 8th Street. The agreement that is before the City Council this afternoon reflects changes resulting from conversations during these meetings, including, probably most importantly, or perhaps most importantly, not transferring an area of land from Cooper Park to LPS ownership. Earlier this month, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board approved another modification to the Cooper Park Master Plan, adding 2 junior tennis courts that can also be used for pickleball play to the single standard tennis court that was included on the plan, as recommended by neighborhood residents participating in community meetings, and that occurs right here in the Cooper Park Master Plan. The agreement before the City Council this afternoon grants an easement. I'll switch drawings here. Grants an easement to LPS to place a geothermal heating and cooling system well field under the shared play field, and to construct a new access drive accessing South 6th Street to the new parking lot that was constructed. And then there's also a new pedestrian walkway along the south side of that new LPS parking lot. LPS is compensating the city in the amount of $22,880 for this easement, and this amount is credited against the city share of expenses for development of the shared playfield. And I will go back, maybe I'll switch back to this drawing. The agreement states that the shared playfield will be available for community use outside of school hours, and that LPS will be responsible for the cost of replacing the artificial turf surface of the playfield in the future. The term of the agreement is for 99 years, and the agreement also establishes cost shares for improvements in Cooper Park and Park Middle School. We're really taking advantage of the opportunity that LPS has a contract in place for work going on at Park Middle School, and we've been able to add on to that contract to get very good pricing for some improvements in the park. And I'll enlarge this. Maybe I'll enlarge this. There we go. So Lincoln Public Schools is paying for let me back up. The access drive displaces the existing 2 tennis courts that are located in Cooper Park. And Lincoln Public Schools is funding the cost to replace one of those. And then Parks and Recreation is funding the cost to replace the other one of those with 2 junior tennis courts that can also be used for pickleball play. And that's this line of the agreement. The shared use playfield, the cost for initially developing that is being split 2/3, 1/3, with LPS paying 2/3 of the construction cost and the city paying the other 1/3 of that cost. And as I said, in the future, Lincoln Public Schools will be responsible for replacing that turf about every 8 to 10 years as it needs to be replaced. And then as part of the master plan, and I can show you where it's at on the map, on the west side of the park at about E Street, there was an access that did not meet ADA standards. There were a series of steps and walkways that led up to kind of the ball field elevation in the park. And we are replacing that with an accessible walkway. This is an opportunity that we had in working with Lincoln Public Schools to have Houseman, their contractor, do that work. And that is the last line on the drawing. And I would say all of these costs have been included in the Parks and Recreation Capital Improvement Program. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have this afternoon.
Are there any questions at this time? Councilman McGinnis?
Yeah, thank you. Lynn, there's going to be some more drop-off lanes put in on, what street is that? 8th, 7th?
On 8th Street, yes.
On 8th Street?
Yeah, on the west side of 8th Street.
Who's paying for all the drop-off lanes?
My understanding is that Lincoln Transportation Utilities is paying for those as part of the street rehab project that's happening there. There will be drop-off areas, and you can see them on the map in this location along that eastern frontage of Cooper Park, and they're being constructed in conjunction with that street rehab project. They'll serve as parking outside of school hours. There'll be signs so that they can be drop-off areas before and after school.
Okay. And I don't know, as being one that's been around a lot of these schools and in parking and dropping off kids, it's kind of like water. You know, the parents are going to find the closest and easiest way to get there, you know, and then the most easy access. And I just don't see them driving all the way around the park and coming in the backside when I would say, you know, 80% of the people are coming from the west.
I think that's true. At least the information that I've seen shows that most of the people are coming, most of the traffic, I think, is actually coming from the east and from the south. And so 8th Street ends up being the most heavily trafficked street around the school.
But having more parking around the park will be good too.
Yeah, that's certainly a benefit.
Times where that's tough too. Okay.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will move into the voting session on resolutions.
Item 5A is approving the fiscal year 2021-2022 annual action plan for HUD entitlement programs using community development block grants, home, and emergency solutions grants, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please do a roll call?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 5B is approving a contract agreement between City of Lincoln and Capital Towing, Inc. for the annual requirements for City of Lincoln towing and storage services pursuant to bid number 21-042 for a 4-year term with an option to renew for 1 additional 4-year term, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Ward. Any discussion? Councilwoman Ward?
Yes, thank you. I just would like to say I am more comfortable since we heard the presentation by Mr. Young today. We did hear a lot about this issue over the last few months, and so it has given me a lot of pause as well. So I appreciate the finance department and doing some work. I think anytime you have someone that's done a contract for 25 years, that gives you reason to step back and take a look at your process. And so I'm glad that there have been some improvements made, and I just want to say that that makes me feel more comfortable in supporting this contract. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's do a roll call.
Raybold?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 5C is approving an interlocal agreement between the City and Lincoln Public Schools related to the joint use of Cooper Park and Park Middle School properties and the associated easement, introduced by McGinnis.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Schob. Any discussion? Councilwoman Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This particular agreement has also had a lot of work, and thank you, Director Johnson, to you and your staff for listening to the neighbors. We meaning my colleagues, council members Washington and Schob, were at a lot of meetings with you, and the neighbors were really great about being real clear about the changes they wanted, and we made those. And I think this was a win-win situation, and when we'd be remiss not to thank, and I know you did, Lincoln Public Schools as well. This is a great agreement. I am really super excited about moving forward with these improvements for this neighborhood. I lived there 20 years ago when some of my friends were in the trees, when they didn't want the trees cut down. I say that, like, I won't reveal their names. We all know who they were. So it's really exciting to see this move forward. So I look forward to supporting your work and the work of the neighbors on this really great agreement. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Washington?
I'd like to echo what Councilwoman Ward has said. This is a really well-negotiated agreement. I really appreciate how much attention you gave to the neighbors. And it has not been mentioned because LTU has not come up to present on this, but I really want to also thank Lincoln Transportation and Utilities for agreeing to come into those conversations as well, because even while these two LPS and the city were talking to each other, LTU was also doing work there and needed to stop and communicate as well. And so thank you really to everyone who participate in these conversations. And with all that positive, I would also like to suggest or make a motion that we amend this, the map, Exhibit B, or Exhibit A, be amended and with a correct map to clearly show the easement line and the placement of features in the park.
Motion to amend number one?
Motion to amend number one.
Motion to amend introduced by Councilman Washington, seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on the motion to amend.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Yay.
Now let's vote on the main motion.
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and thank the neighbors.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Ward.
Thank you, LPS.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Section 6 is public hearing ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions. I'll be calling items 6A, B, and C together. Item 6A is approving the Meadow Lane Shopping Center redevelopment project agreement between Hampton Enterprises, Inc. and the city relating to the redevelopment of property generally located at northeast corner 70th and Vine Streets, and the related fiscal year 2020-21 CIP to authorize and appropriate $312,170 in TIF funds for the Meadow Lane Shopping Center redevelopment project, and the related tax allocation bonds for the Meadow Lane Shopping Center redevelopment project in the amount not to exceed $312,170,000.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin, Director of Urban Development, 555 South 10th Street. We've been up here and kind of gone through, I think the last week when we were up here, we talked about the redevelopment agreement showing a mapped area that excludes the filling station that's on the corner of 70th and Vine. So this is in the packet. What the hatched area identifies as area where tax increment financing can go and help pay for improvements. The agreement that you have before you is not a large amount of tax increment financing, but it does have facade improvements on the building and sidewalk repair dollars in there that would be able to go on either 70th or on Vine Street. And I'm going to take a cue from the interim finance director and cut it short and ask if there are any questions.
Councilman McGinnis?
Could you put the map up there again?
Sure.
Okay, so we can put sidewalks all the way down Vine, even though the gas station is not part of the project?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got the sidewalk, the right-of-way is covered, just not the area that's the filling station property.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I know Ann Post is here on behalf of the developer too, so I'll yield some time over to them too.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Post. I'm an attorney with Baylor Evans Law Firm. I'm here today. That is 1248 O Street, Suite 600. Thank you. I'm here today on behalf of Hampton Enterprises, and with me is Michelle Keogh, the president of properties for Hampton Enterprises. And again, we're here today in support of this redevelopment agreement. As Director Marvin stated, this redevelopment agreement represents a approximately $1.4 million investment in just upgrading and modernizing the Meadow Lane Shopping Center. So the Meadow Lane Shopping Center was built in the 1960s. It has been repaired and maintained over the years, but it's time for a significant investment. And so as part of this project, Hampton is going to be investing $1.4 million into the shopping center. $1 million of that is, or over $1 million is Hampton Enterprises money directly. Over about $300,000 of that is tax increment financing, and that tax increment financing under this redevelopment agreement is going to facade upgrades. That includes stonework on the facade, updating the exterior facade with painted brick and metal panels, a stone surface sign. We're also happy to be able to tell you that that's going to include replacement of the windows in the shopping center with more energy efficient windows. So that's going to be a major upgrade that I think the community can be happy about, our tenants can be happy about. That'll be just really good for the development overall. Also included is replacement of sidewalks. So that is replacement of sidewalks along, I believe that's 70th Street, with repair of sidewalks along, is that X Street and Vine Street as necessary. And so with that, we think that this is going to be just a great improvement for the neighborhood to help maintain the Meadow Lane Shopping Center as an asset for the neighborhood and for Lincoln in the years to come. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, please.
I'll be calling items 6D, E, and F together. Item 6D is approving the 2 Landmark Center redevelopment agreement between NEBCO, Inc. and the city relating to the redevelopment of property generally located at 1111 Lincoln Mall and the related fiscal year 2020-21 CIP to authorize and appropriate $3,500,000 TIF funds for the 2 Landmark Center redevelopment project and the related tax allocation bonds for the 2 Landmark Center redevelopment project in the amount not to exceed the $3,500,000.
Good afternoon, Dan Marvin, Urban Development Director, 555 South 10th Street. We're real excited about this project. It will take care of a building that caught fire last year and an older building that really needed to be repurposed into something that will really make Lincoln Mall stand out. The area that we're talking about, we'll start here. The area we're talking about is, this is Lincoln Mall, would be this area here is the building area, and then again hatched in are streets that would be available to receive tax increment financing. If we kind of zoom in a little bit, this is kind of the building envelope of the future building. And again, you can see the Lincoln Mall with the new building on the right here. It'd be really an outstanding corridor, quite a contribution to the city of Lincoln. Kind of an aerial view of the corridor again. As you look down the Lincoln Mall, it will stand out. Compliments to NEBCO in working with their neighbor, Pioneer House. I think there were challenges there in terms of being able to, when you're working in the built environment, the elbow room just doesn't quite exist as much as it does out in the greenfield areas, which again is one of the reasons why tax increment financing is a tool that's helpful to recognize that we would like to be able to get people to rebuild inside the city, but there are challenges when you do that. I think as part of this project, there's going to be some undergrounding and some power lines, which is always a way to improve the site views in the neighborhoods, but also improve on reliability as well. The project itself will have will take advantage of 20-year TIF, and one of the things that we are asking developers to do on office projects or other things is, what are the additional things that would help enhance the long-term energy efficiency of the building? They will spend $850,000 or approximately $841,500 in energy efficiency, and streetscape improvements that we're going to do along that corridor, along Lincoln Mall. The amount is $215,000. The question that we asked Parks, asked Lynn Johnson, is what are the things that need to be done along Lincoln Mall? And one of the issues we're Irrigation, there's a failure in the irrigation system, so they can address those issues. The lighting system in the mall is having reliability issues. And then there's a bike lane proposed to be striped along Lincoln Mall. They would then use those funds to help stripe the bike lane between 10th and 14th Street. And then landscaping material would be brought in to enhance the mall too, just to refresh that area. I'll stop there. I know that Danae and Bob are here as well to speak, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Director Marvin? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Bob Caldwell, Executive Vice President, Chief Administrative Officer for NEBCO Inc., 1815 Y Street. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of the folks and experts from the city that helped us. Every week we had a phone call to work on this project because we have a short timeline to get it completed for our client. And the city and the staff and everything from legal to urban development throughout the city, they've done an excellent job. So kudos. I know that doesn't get heard a lot, but on our projects, the city does a great job with us. We're excited about this client. It's going to be a premier building. As the Capital Environs Committee said, this is the type of construction they want to see on the mall. It's quite architecturally significant, long-term materials, and just something the Able family can be, and the city of Lincoln can be proud about for many years. Happy to answer any question that you might have, but Dan explained the project quite well.
Are there any questions for Mr. Caldwell? Councilman Washington?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Caldwell, thank you for coming down. And thank you for working with Pioneer House on this. With that said, I have a couple of questions. In looking at the site plan and all the renderings, the parking garage for visitor parking, that's a 2-story? Or
no. So the parking, there's an existing surface lot that is directly south of the building.
Yeah.
And that will remain a surface lot with the same number of stalls that we had existing, and those will all be leased. We have a full, you can put the description up. We lease all of that lot to the GSA, which is for the USDA. And then the partial underground parking underneath the building, and it's 1 story underground.
Okay. Yeah, I was having a hard time with some of the renderings to understand the visitor parking area in relationship to Pioneer House, since I know that was one of their concerns.
Yeah, it will be, this is the visitor parking lot here. Pioneer House's lot is adjacent, so the 2 parking lots will stay as they are existing today, adjacent.
Okay.
And I will put a word out that they've been exceptional to work with. As neighbors, they would like to have a brand new building next to them and have alley improvements. And then during construction, we've also entered into an agreement with them to park in the lot, our surface lot, during construction, which is a good result. And we've been advocating for a couple other things with them, also with the city. So they have a good group and a great board of directors.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilman Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. More of a comment, Mr. Caldwell, and a comment basically about Pioneer House. I also heard from them very complimentary about everything NEBCO was doing, that you're doing to work with them. And I know they're looking at some other fundraising efforts they asked me about. So I know that that is a partnership. Wanted to thank you for that. And also, when we talk about your projects, I always have this just for a fleeting moment of, it feels just sombering because of the circumstances, as well of the fire, the burning, why we're here. Not that you wouldn't have done development regardless, but I know we texted that following week. That morning, I was down there, as were other of my colleagues. I saw Danae Kalkowski cleaning up her office. But I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for what you did and what NEBCO did for all those buildings down Lincoln Mall and the continued improvements that you do for the city there. So thank you for that. And thanks, Ms. Kalkowski as well. But I always have this sobering, fleeting moment because it takes me back to that year ago. But we're so excited about the project. Thank you for working with Pioneer House. I know that they are good partners. They have good people living there, and we're excited about the project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman McGinnis?
Yeah. Again, thank you so much. I mean, having NEBCO for a citizen is great to have at this point, and especially for the, down here for this block. And what they've done for Lincoln Mall is just pretty much outstanding, and we can't ask for anything better. I do have a couple quick questions. Are we leaving enough on-street parking? I mean, parking's a problem in our south downtown area. Are we keeping the same amount of parking that on-street that we've had before?
Yeah, it's my understanding that the on-street parking won't change. We did work with the city to look at multiple types of drafts to go from parallel to angled parking to et cetera. And I think that's still being looked at, specifically around Pioneer House, who is very short. They're also short of parking there too. But, you know, we will be adding parking through most of the basement of this building, plus our adjacent surface lot. And so we think we have the parking needs met with the additional parking that will be secured in Carriage House. And then, of course, NEBCO owns the properties, all of the properties on the north side of the block, all the way to the city county building north. So we have adjacent properties with parking available.
Okay.
Any further questions? Thank you both so much for coming down.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item?
Richard Halverson, 6311 Inverness Road, and again, my objection is TIF. One of the objects of TIF is that it would not go to a project that won't be done without the TIF. Well, that older building that Mr. Marvin talked about, that's gone. That's a piece of vacant rubble. So I can't see how they could come up with a straight face and say, we're not going forward with this project, when you already torn down the one, well, the other ones, you know, had to be torn down. It's part way there too. But again, the older building, you've torn it down. There's just a vacant lot there now. So I can't see how they can come up and say, well, this project's not going forward. And so that'd be the TIF would be the overall plan. I wouldn't object to, but using TIF for it, I would. All right.
Thank you so much. And can we get your address for the record? Can we get your address for the record, please?
You want to write down, or 6311 Inverness Road?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Would Director Marvin or Danae or Mr. Caldwell like to provide a rebuttal?
Generally, what's allowed in terms of demolition is allowed prior to the point that you guys are taking action. So I think that we're still fine to go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else here to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's move on to the next item of business.
We have our Section 7 ordinances, third reading and related resolutions. Item 7A is Street and Alley Vacation 21001, application of Gatehouse Row LP to vacate right-of-way for R Street and T Street located east of North 36th Street, includes two east-west alley right-of-way areas north and south of T Street, generally located at 3600 R Street, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Councilwoman Raybold?
I'd like to have a motion to amend number 1.
Second.
And this motion to amend number 1, it reserves the pedestrian access easement in vacated R Street for the city. This is something that I believe both parties had talked about, and I think it just got omitted from the version that was presented to us last week. So this motion to amend number 1 will correct that.
Any discussion? All right, seeing none, can we vote on Councilwoman Raybold's motion to amend?
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. And the main motion?
And then moving on to the main motion.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7B is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter C by creating the classification of Energy Recovery Coordinator, introduced by Beckius.
I would like to move that on his behalf.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please do a roll call?
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7C is amending Section 2.76.175 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to compensation plan promotion, transfer, demotion, or temporary promotion to define how an employee will be paid for absences and legal holidays when an employee is in a temporary promotion position, and repealing Sections 2.76.175 as hereto existing, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Schob. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please do a roll call?
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7D is amending Section 2.78.020 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to management compensation plan annual leave to change the period of time for appointed directors to use annual vacation leave to the end of the calendar year or December 31st, and repealing Section 2.78.020 as hereto existing, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please do a roll call?
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7E is change of zone 21011, application of Southwest Folsom Development LLC from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District on property generally located at 420 South 84th Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Schob. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7F is approving a development and conditional zoning agreement between the city and Southwest Folsom Development LLC to change approximately 63 acres from AG Agriculture to R3 Residential District on property generally located at 420 South 84th Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call?
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Our resolutions first readings are items 8A through 8H. Ordinances first readings are items 9A through 9F. We have one item pending list date certain for June 28th is item 10A. And then our pending list is items 11A through 11C.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's do roll call.
On first reading, right?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
We stand adjourned.